NFL Inside Blitz week number 3, and we cannot contain the excitement for today's show. Ted, tell us what everybody's in store for today.
Well, they're in store for a damn good recap of what we saw the last weekend. I know you guys went over it, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the games. But, hey, I think week 3's got a better schedule than week 2 had. And how about 7 dogs winning in week number 2, Ron? Was that a little bit of a surprise?
I don't know if it was that much of a surprise. There's always week 1 to week 2 overreactions. A couple of bonehead coaching moves that, in my opinion, switch some games. And there's always going to be some tight games, 50-50 games early in the season, because these teams are playing extended August preseason practices. The injuries this year, not so much to quarterback and running back, but wide receiver and a lot of defensive players so far. Basically hamstrings, all sorts of other things. So we'll start getting real football in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the first few weeks, and that's what you sort of expect. What you expect is the unexpected, and that's the bottom line. But we've got 9 2-0 teams, and we have 9 0-2 teams. So let's look at the contrast there and how we think that's going to affect this season. You don't want to get too caught up because it's only week 3, but at the same time, there's some teams in trouble already, especially with injury situations. And the 2-0 teams, most of them are not shockers.
Yeah. The 2-0s? Yeah, but they did it the hard way. Kansas City could have been 0-2, but they know how to win. Obviously, New Orleans has started strong. They're a legit 2-0. Houston had a couple of close calls. Could have gone either way, but I love D'Amico Ryans. I think he's already excelling as a year 2 head coach. Yep. So Pittsburgh's 2-0, but they're doing it with 1 offensive touchdown. So it's not all 2-0s are legit, but coaching has mattered the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, and the 0-2 teams, let's look at a couple of them. Okay, Baltimore, the Rams, certainly Cincinnati. They're all potentially able to get out of the rut and have a good season. But they better do it quickly. And we know the history there. If you fall to 0-3, you got yourselves a giant crater to get out of. And what about the Ravens? They have found ways to lose. Right now, Coach Harbaugh is not going to be Coach of the Year. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, well, Cris can speak to this because he brought it up on Tuesday. Cincinnati and Baltimore may be 0-2, but they're still the favorites in that division.
Right. Okay, but are they? Should they be?
Yeah, probably true. I wouldn't rule out Cleveland if for some reason Deshaun Watson finds his rhythm. It's a toss-up league. I wouldn't want to bet any favorite in that division to win the division right now, but it's a toss-up.
And as far as the Rams are concerned, only a couple of them are not in the hospital. So, I mean, it's a bad situation. I'm going to the Rams-Niners games this Sunday, and I don't know if I'll recognize anybody out there. It looks like a preseason game, at least on the O-lines, right?
Yeah. One telling stat, this is something I talked to people on this show and other shows after cutdown day, watch the waiver wire, see what they're doing, and so on. San Francisco worked out 3 defensive backs this past week. What that tells me is what I've told people all along. Their defensive backfield isn't all that good. They didn't address it specifically in the draft to the satisfaction. It's a weak link on the team, and they need their dynamite pass rush to get home in order to mask deficiencies in the secondary. But remember, they're banged up too. San Francisco may not be quite as banged up as the Rams, but both of those teams have a few people on IR or close to being on IR.
Yeah, we appreciate City by the Bay saying that the Panthers are live dogs this weekend. I'm not sure they're breathing. You got to be breathing to be alive. But we'll see what happens with them. Look, they're making the change of quarterback. They're just tired of what's going on over there. Cris, your thoughts on the quarterback situation in Carolina? That's the number one subject, baby.
Oh, I think it's pretty good. I look forward to
Andy Dalton.
Red Rifle coming out and going to town. Last year he came out with 275 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I think he delivered a baby afterwards. So I expect bigger and better this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Red Rifle doesn't have as much ammunition as he used to have. That arm is dangling. He is I interviewed him after his Rose Bowl game. It feels like about 50 years ago already. I've liked his career. He's had some tough luck, and he was obviously with a bad franchise for too much of it. But
what's going on with Ted there?
Good.
I know we
backup.
Lost his audio, little.
Okay.
I'll fill in for Ted.
Back?
His audio.
I think Ted's pirating the neighbor's internet again.
I think
Andy don't.
I think you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
You can't hear me? Okay, good. Anyway, so as far as Andy Dalton goes, like Jimmy G, a couple of really good backups to have on your team, as opposed to some teams that would beg to have those guys.
Like the Lions?
Just hopefully Goff doesn't have to throw 55 passes every week and his arm won't fall off. And thoughts on Jacksonville? Are they in huge trouble, or is this something they can get out of? Trevor Lawrence says, "We suck right now." Those are his words. Well, he's right. What can I say? And you can't blame it on Urban Meyer this time, baby.
Yeah, he should take it out on the quarterback.
Ron, are you paying attention to this?
No, I'm listening. I don't have many comments to add about Jacksonville. It's 2 games. Lawrence has he stretched the field. A lot of quarterbacks are not stretching the field in the first 2 games. He has stretched the field, could be a little bit more accurate, but they've taken shots downfield. I'm more worried about that their coaching staff overall has been a little bit overrated.
Yep, I totally agree. And speaking of coaches, Dan Campbell now has his house up for sale because he's had some unfortunate visitors after a loss, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Feeling for Dan at the same time, he got caught up in the moments a little too much this past week. And I know that Cris has to be a little concerned what's going on the sideline with his boyhood idol team.
Yeah, it's I'm getting pissed off because Amon St. Brown was mouthing off or commenting that the Saints aren't anything, and Campbell's moving, and supposedly fans are harassing him. I don't know. There's something funky in Detroit, and when I know more, I'll share more. But I don't like it. There's just a lot of cracks going on right now.
Yeah, and interesting point Russell brings up about Dave Canales. He's a non-proven commodity yet. We're going to wait and see. I'm not going to get caught up in 2 weeks. At the same time, he's got a lot of people behind him thinking he's going to do a hell of a job as a head coach, but maybe he's one of those guys who's just a lifetime assistant. We'll find out.
This is the problem of the internet and the age that we live in now. 2 games into the season from a team that was dead last in a lot of metrics last year, and we're expecting instant improvement. And give these guys some time. And before there was all this instant social media stuff, teams got a little bit more time to breathe and develop the team the way they wanted to, not rush these guys in. Poor drafting will get you in trouble, and that's one area I've never talked about Carolina as having even a top 10 draft class in the last several years, and eventually it catches up to you. That's just life. I don't know why we're rushing to judgment sometimes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a fast food society. It's like, how fast can I get my tacos and get the hell out of here? It's just the way it is, unfortunately. Good news for Cincinnati today. T. Higgins is back at practice, so hopefully he is able to go this weekend, because you know what? They need him. Joe Burrow needs him. That combo has got to work, and he's already got one unhappy superstar. They got to figure this out fast.
Yeah, 2 predictions I'll make right now for 2025. T. Higgins will not be with the Bengals, and Deebo Samuel will not be with the 49ers.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much a given.
And availability is everything. And both of these guys right now, you get Deebo Samuel is a tremendous player, but how many games are you going to see from him? It's a real problem in the NFL. And I think NFL GMs and coaches would be better served to try to get people who have a little bit more durability.
Yep. Let's talk about tonight's game, guys. Thursday night football, the Jets at home against the Pats, a couple of 1-1 clubs. New York has been awful against the Patriots over the last decade. I think it's 3-23 in their last 26 games, but totally different franchises now. So you can't get caught up in those numbers a lot. But your thoughts a little bit on what the Jets have offered us so far after 2 weeks.
Go for it, Cris.
I don't think we know enough yet. I think we saw a little bit of progress with the Jets, but it's not as much as we'd like to see or expected out of them. Obviously, the Patriots are actually surprising, and I think if we would have looked at we would have thought this game might have been more than a touchdown before the season started. So it's kind of surprising it is within a touchdown, and there's two-way action on the game.
Yeah, I'm not surprised the Patriots defense is playing well. I think that's should be their strength going into the season. We just don't know if they can ever score enough points to win a game.
Well, that's what you got to worry about. Where's the scoring going to come from? So you give up a touchdown and you worry, they're out of it.
Could be. I think good time to hear from Aaron Rodgers, who he got his first win as a starter, right, with the Jets this past week. But he says, no, that wasn't my first win. Let's hear from Aaron.
Technically my second. We all know that. Somehow that first one counts. It's 4 important plays. I don't know if they count on that, but it feels great. It feels great. Been a long time coming. I was telling Evan, in the post game on the field, I hadn't had that in a long time. Being able to have that interview on the field after the game means you won, means you played halfway decent. So good to get a win. These are kind of the games you look back on late in the season. And you're thankful that you won these, because if we want to be a great team, we got to win in these type of environments against teams like that.
Okay, so that's Aaron Rodgers talking about the first win, truly the first win as a Jet. And there's something about, I think, and Ron and I have talked about this for decades. It could take one win like this to give a team the confidence they need to go on a roll. Now, whether they're good enough or not is questionable. And to me, questionable is their coaching staff. I think that's my big question with the Jets. I trust none of them. But what do you think, Ron?
My expectations this week is it's going to be a sloppy game. And the reason why I think that is because of what the NFL did to these teams. The Jets, obviously, they didn't play a lot of their starters in preseason. They wait Monday Night Football, they play, then they play on Sunday, then they come back on a Thursday. And these bodies are not ready for it. We don't know what we're going to get from Mike Williams, but I think both the Jets defense, which has been soft against the run right now, and that's obviously the way New England's going to try to exploit them. I expect a reset from the Jets after this game. The question is, can Aaron Rodgers steal another win here? Because you want to keep pace with Buffalo right now. Buffalo is playing at a level right now where you're saying this is the team we have to beat to get in there, especially with Tua's injury. The Jets cannot afford to lose this game, but this is a fatigue game for them. And then you have the other situation. I know some people have theories on this as well. You got a new coach with New England, although he's been with the organization. He's playing a road Thursday night game. It's not ideal historically to play that road Thursday night game. All these factors contribute to me that you're going to see some plays and saying, wow, these teams don't look good at all. That's what I think we're going to see. Not good football tonight, even though it's football and it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, it all totally makes sense. But what the Patriots are dealing with here is run, and a lot of short stuff. You know, they don't want to take too many chances down the field because they don't have that kind of capability. But we are going to hear from Pat's quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, as he tries to figure out a way to get more of his guys into the offense.
Who are we hearing from? You were breaking up.
Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm breaking up again.
You got to start paying for your internet, buddy.
Breaking up is hard to do, baby. Remember that old song?
No, obviously our run game is getting better each and every week. From week 1 to week 2, they did a lot of things to try to stop the run, and we still were able to execute that. Hunter obviously had a big day Sunday, but obviously we're still trying to learn our identity, still trying to get better and get more guys involved for sure. And I think we're excited about this opportunity to do that. So I think that's the plan, is to try to spread the wealth a little bit more this week.
Oh, there you go. So spread. Now, who do they spread it to? I think Edelman is gone. I think Gronk is gone. Who are you going to give it to, Ron?
Well, the situation I see here is, how can I put this? Aaron Rodgers, I think he does get well in terms of accuracy in this game. So far, he's been kind of so feeling his way through. We saw it with Kirk Cousins until the last drive, speaking about get well. So Aaron Rodgers is still finding his rhythm, but he gets a chance in this game because New England's pass defense is a weak link right now. You're talking about over 70%. I think you're going to see Aaron with a lot of completions in this game. Now, he's going to take a shot to Garrett Wilson. He's going to do a couple of things. I don't know about Mike Williams right now. Even though he hasn't played that many snaps, it's still 3 game-ready days in a short period of time. It's his 4th game that's going to be better. But I do think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers test the waters in the pass game, even if it's to wheel routes to Breece Hall, something to get him out in space. I think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers pass the ball in this game.
Well, and I think it's totally up to the Jets O-line tonight, because if there's any kind of a pass rush at all by the Pats, they can make this a game and put some doubts into Mr. Rodgers' mind, because he's not moving around like the old Rodgers. Actually, he is like the very old Rodgers right now. He's just not the same guy anymore. He's still got great arm, and he doesn't even need an arm. He could flick his wrist better than most guys can throw a ball, and it's unbelievable the way he throws.
It feels like one of those games where you're going to know within the first 6 minutes of the game how the game's going to go for some reason. It doesn't seem like it's going to have peaks and valleys, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, a lot depends on Brissett in this particular game. I mean, obviously, the Jets' plan would be to stop Stevenson from controlling the run and clock, because New England's done a great job of putting themselves in position to practically be 2-0 this season. Yeah. Right now, the Jets aren't quite ready to stop the run. They lost their best pass rusher. They're a little thin on the defensive line, and we got the short week again. So New England's going to say, if the fatigue is a factor, we're going to run right at you. And if it works, New England stays in the game. If it doesn't work, it puts a lot of pressure on their quarterback to do something he doesn't normally do with an untested group of wide receivers, and that's stretch the field.
So how hard of a game is this to play? It's what is it, just under a touchdown? Is it still around 6.5?
Yeah, it's an easy game for me because I'm going to be watching it.
There you go. Now, but how do you trust either side? Specifically, the circumstances you just talked about, short week, new coach on one side. There's just so many variables. It's like your brain can implode.
I think Cris is right in one sense. If we get a sense that the Jets aren't stopping the run, then we're going to know right away New England's in this game for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And when in doubt, with the situation of both of these teams, when in doubt, you take the points. You don't lay the points.
Yeah.
No,
historically and otherwise, if the line did touch 7, and I don't know if it's getting close to that or not. No, it's going the other way. It's kind of 6 now, huh?
It is. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. It really really 6 is the right number in this game.
Right. Now that makes a lot of sense. The only issue is if the Patriots fall behind 10-0, the final score could be, 23-3 or something.
Right.
That's the only issue. Outside of that, it should be a ball game. Okay, we're done with Thursday night football. Let's talk red flags, okay? Week number 3. You know what my red flags are? Coaching so far in this season. I'm worried about Philadelphia, as I said before we even started the year. I'm not a Sirianni guy. I don't think he's a head coach. Out of there. I don't like him at all. I'm worried about not losing sleep, but worried about the Jets situation under Saleh. Doug Peterson right now looks like a line coach or something. It's like, what is he doing? And then I know you guys had a discussion a couple of days ago about what's going on in Denver, and you got to be a little surprised. Is this game passed Sean Payton by? Is he making so much money he can't pay attention to his chart? I don't have no idea.
Yeah, he used to scheme people open, and now he's not scheming people open at all. But all those coaches you mentioned, I agree with.
Yeah, but how much is that a true red flag for the long haul on the season? I mean, is it overreaction from me? I don't think so. This is, caught up in what's been going on the last few years too.
I just don't ever recall seeing so many coaches making mistakes. It used to be pretty uncommon. I don't know whether it's a matter of we didn't bother to point it out, or we didn't know that they were making the mistakes, or that the mistakes are actually increasing, or we're just demanding more efficiency with it. I'm not sure where it comes from, but these first 2 weeks, it's been a handful of coaches each week.
Yeah. And Ron, how about refreshing our viewers on what you didn't like from Sean Payton and the specific call? And then we will hear from the coach as he described it after the game.
So you're down 7 and you have 1:54 left and 1 timeout. If you keep kick deep, you're going to have at most 30 seconds. And you really don't even have 30 seconds because you run 5 seconds per play is 15 plus another 40 off another 80 off the clock, because so you're running a lot of time off the clock because he only has 1 timeout left. You cannot kick deep in that situation. I don't care if your onside kick is a 10% chance. The odds are that if you're going to get the ball back with 15 seconds left, needing a touchdown and 75 yards to go, because you're going to get the ball from the 20 out, the odds are less than 10% that you're going to win the game. I've seen teams kick field goals with 20 seconds left, moving 30, 40 yards, but I have not seen teams get touchdowns. This was the white flag give up. And I just haven't seen a worse call in the last decade.
Okay, so then let's hear from the coach and see what he thinks about what you hate about him.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time going through it. Look back and forth. We had plenty of time to discuss it. There was a player down. We felt like our odds, the long run on third down prior to them punting took about 6 seconds. We were hopeful to have 2 or 3 plays before we went to the ends. It was just weighing the odds versus recovering an onside kick or getting the ball back with 26 seconds. So we chose to kick off.
There you go. That's his explanation.
Yeah, well, 26 seconds was, I don't know what his internal clock was. I thought they would be lucky if they had over 20 seconds. And it turns out, what did they have? Like 8 or 9 seconds or something like that, because one of the outside runs took a little bit longer than expected. You just can't do that in that situation. You have to have guys in your ear saying, don't do that, don't do that. And that happened in 2 or 3 games. One thing you said about the coaches, that you see so many of these coaching decisions. I actually in college, but not in the NFL, have a formula for downgrading teams a point or 2 and a game or 2 in season win totals in the college game. Okay. And I rely on that. My bottom 5 coaches list is filled with, if I think they have the talent to go 7-5, I have them going 5.5. I just knock them down a game and a half because bottom 5 coaches on my list get fired. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in a game. If you think Maryland's coach is a really good coach, good for you, but I don't. And I downgrade, teams like that. Maybe I start doing that in the NFL, but I've never thought that was the way to go in the NFL, but you're aware of who the bad coaches are. That's for sure.
Right. What are your specific red flags, both of you guys, to start the year out? We're trying not to feel the overreaction of everything, obviously.
Well, you know that these coaches are going to cost their team a game. We knew it with Philadelphia. We knew it with Detroit. You just don't like to see it so early in the season. And because another one's going to come. And it's surprising. We saw with, Harbaugh also.
Yeah.
Big game this week for Baltimore. If they don't win, do they stand? Where are they going to be? They, an 0-3 in that division is going to be a tough rebound.
Right.
Yeah. My red flag would be looking at the totals of the games. And this was a question I had for Cris specifically, because we haven't seen it in a while, unless it's really bad weather, where you have a week 3 and you had 7 totals that are essentially 40 points or less, and 5 that were clearly below 40, at least as of a day and a half ago. So instead of what Ted, you and I have talked about, is that they find their rhythm in week 3 because they didn't practice that much. Instead, we're seeing these totals go lower, primarily because they're playing more cover 2 or they're running more, or whatever the case may be. More seconds are coming off the clock with the kickoffs, whatever the case may be. But Cris, I kind of wanted your feeling on this for why are we seeing almost half the totals right now be under 40 in a league that tries to reward high scoring games?
Well, we're seeing more field goals, number one, which is lowering the score. But I think we're seeing that the offenses get a slow start out of the gate without the preseason preparation. I think we're going to see a switch in that this week. So I do have one under for the week, but everything else is going to be over. So
Interesting. But it has been a running start for the league. We have seen more runs. You guys mentioned yesterday, I was going to bring this up. I got the total for you. Your 3 starting rookie quarterbacks with no touchdown passes, 0 for 196 total in touchdown passes. Okay. So that's just 3 teams, but this is about the run game right now to start this year off. It really is. And the running teams are doing well. The New England's hanging in there because of the run. The Packers are hanging in there without Love because of the run. They lead the league in rushing.
What I haven't seen is the fourth down conversion rate. It seems to me, and this means absolutely nothing because, but it just, from what I've seen, it seems like there's been a hell of a lot of stops on 4th downs in the league.
Right.
Do you have access to that number, Ron?
No, but that's interesting this year. I think that's a good brainstorming topic because in the past, let's say before 2023, 4th down conversions were usually out of necessity more than a chart that says go for it on 4th down at the 4-yard line in the first quarter, or go for it on 4th down at midfield, 4th and 3 instead of punting. Because we're seeing more of this metric driven kind of thing, we should pay attention to that more. So maybe that's on my to-do list as well. I think that's a good point to bring up.
Okay, well, one of the things that we talk about the run game. One team that's absolutely awful at running so far in 2 weeks are the Raiders. Okay, they lose Josh Jacobs, and there's some concern there. They made a mistake letting him get away to the Packers. But why don't we hear from Vegas head coach Antonio Pierce about the situation there and how they got to figure out a run game, and they need to figure it out soon, Cris.
There you go.
Man's got to start up front. It's got to start up front. It's it starts with. Listen, I'm be honest and coaching cliche here, but it's with starts with me. It starts with our coaches, our offensive line coach, our coordinator. That's poor. That's piss poor, and it's not good enough. And our players are going to hear about it here in a second. We just can't do that. It's just, under 2 yards of carry, getting knocked back, third and short, not getting it. There has to be an intent and a play style that we talked about, that we practice, that we've been preaching since day one, and it's not showing up on game day. So obviously, if it's changes that need to be made or scheme, everything's on the table.
What are the challenges of facing Andy Dalton?
I don't know what happened there.
He's going to start a quarterback.
Veteran quarterback. That's news to me. I just was in meetings, but I got to go back up to the drawing boards on that one. Wasn't prepared for that one.
Is that great? I had to leave that in there. The guy right after that question asked him, so what are your thoughts on facing Andy Dalton? He didn't even know Dalton was in there yet. That was on Monday. That's not the coach's fault. But it's absolutely hilarious. We're facing Andy Dalton. We got to figure that one out. Anyway, good luck, coach. But their run game absolutely stinks right now. And if they can't figure that out, then they have to rely on 2 bad quarterbacks. How bad is that for Pierce? He's a defensive guy.
What are you talking about? Minshew's like number 2 in the league for yards passing. He's got 250-yard passing games in a row.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm trying to see.
I looked up fourth down conversions, and they actually looked pretty successful around the league, frankly.
Okay. My take on what you just said regarding their run game is they played the Chargers, and we know that actually they played 2 Harbaugh teams, right?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, those guys kind of defend the run, and now you're playing a team that hasn't defended anything yet. I think it's a get right spot for Vegas in the run game.
It better be, because if they can't do it this week, I think we know what to expect the rest of the way. Thoughts on any other games? I know Ron, you got a couple of games you want to highlight.
Well, I just thought if we picked a couple of games, and the fascinating game, one of 2 fascinating games to me would be the Giants and Cleveland.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised that the line was under 7. I thought there'd be no public sentiment for the Giants whatsoever. I do think this game does go to 7. So those who read the market and are playing numbers should already have had money on Cleveland, because I just don't see, barring injury, that number goes down. You're talking about, to me, it's predictable which way the line movement is. Now, does that mean one side or better is the other is the play? I don't know. I can tell you this. Daniel Jones is not going to have a great passing game against the Cleveland pass defense.
When does he have a great passing game?
They're too much in your face. And Daniel Jones right now, he's going to need Singletary to run the ball against Cleveland. You're going to have to run the ball against Cleveland to loosen them up, because if you have to rely on Daniel Jones, you're not going to get the job done. I think this game hinges on the Giants' pass rush. They actually have 6 sacks so far this year. And Cleveland's offensive line, I would call it league average right now. They have some holes. That I think they have 1 key injury to the offensive line. So if Cleveland allows Singletary to run, that's one thing there. And I do think that you have to pressure Watson, because Watson still is more see it, throw it. And he doesn't have the rifle arm you were discussing, Ted, regarding Aaron Rodgers. He sees it for a second and he can whip the ball in there. Watson's not going to be able to do that.
Right.
I just thought it was interesting that the line was under 7. I don't know what Cris made it. So you have any thoughts on that game?
Well, it's kind of surprising, because if you buy into the ticket information, only 54% of the money and 61% of the tickets are on Cleveland. So the Giants are getting their fair share of support. But I have a funny feeling that, obviously there's in full confidence in Cleveland. What have they done to impress? There's got to be about 40 or 50 trends that all point to the Giants covering this game and potentially winning the game outright, frankly. But those are trends. So, anything can happen. And just because you can come up with a zillion reasons why the Giants should be covering based on previous results and trends and situations. It doesn't mean that they will this time. So, where did I have then?
Ron, your thoughts on the Cleveland pass rush? Because to me, Danny Pesos has to play a clean game. That's the game for me. If he doesn't throw the ball away and do the stupid crap that he tends to do, it's a ball game.
Yeah, Cleveland's pass rush I rate is better than average.
Okay.
So it puts pressure on the New York Giants offensive line. That's why that run game has to work. Combination of Cleveland's pass rush plus their sticky pass defense makes this a non-winnable game if it's on Jones' hands.
Exactly.
I'm going to have to get involved if it hits 7 for sure, and I might even get involved anyway. But
pretty good chance to hit 7 though too, especially late, right?
I think so. I think in the end, people are going to do things with Cleveland. I agree with what you said, Cris, that Cleveland's not exactly a public team to begin with anyway. But
right.
I mean, the Giants are heading for right now. They're 31st in my power numbers.
Wow. Gee, I wonder who's number 32.
yeah. That I think but it's a lot closer than we thought because this is something that applies to the other game I want to talk about, Miami, Seattle, and it applies to Andy Dalton. The Andy Dalton rise, I agree with. Last week we talked, and I did not agree with the Malik Willis thing. He was downgraded seven points essentially, and I downgraded him only 5 because he was playing Indianapolis, which created opportunities, and even more than I thought. I thought he'd pass 20 times. He only passed 14. Right. Because he didn't have to against Indianapolis.
No, and that was smart. I mean, they play the ground game, and they're leading the league in rushing yards. That's just keep doing it until Love comes back.
So for right now, I have Andy Dalton 1.5 points better than Bryce Young. So that makes it closer. And the same thing in the Miami-Seattle game is what do you do between Tua and their backup, Skyler, who's coming in the game? He's had some success in the past, modest backup type success. The market seems to downgrade him about 4.5 to 5 points.
Right.
Miami from Tua to Skyler. And I agree completely, actually. I think they hit it right on the head in this case as well. I think it's 4.5 to 5 points. And I find this a fascinating game because I don't think we know enough about Seattle. I know they're 2-0, and that's fantastic. Like I said before, Tennessee's 0-2. They could have been 2-0. They made some bonehead plays. Seattle and Geno Smith avoided bonehead plays. They came from behind to catch New England. They beat Denver, but it was a very close game. Wasn't it decided in the end or in overtime or something like that? So Seattle is still a work in progress. They're not a shutdown team yet. And Miami still has weapons, and they still have plenty of speed. So I'm intrigued by this game, even with the backup quarterback.
Okay, I want to know, you being Mr. Kansas State from the past, what was Skylar Thompson's rating for you coming out of college and how he fits in the NFL? Because I don't know that much about him, and he hasn't looked very good the times I have seen him.
Thrust into situations where he could learn and be about his ceiling is career backup.
Okay.
I mean, that's it. His ceiling was never going to be a starter. He wasn't going to be rated a viable NFL quarterback by me or by many. I'm not out on a limb on that.
Right. No, I know.
At all. But he's serviceable. This is where it helps to get in the right scheme with the right coaching staff and so on. You could be a really good quarterback and your career could be ruined because you weren't drafted by Kansas City like Pat Mahomes was, drafted to a team with a great offensive line and so on. Pat Mahomes would have struggled early with another team, with a lot of other teams, but he found the right situation. In Miami, I think this is a good situation for him to hit his ceiling. And his ceiling, again, is still career backup.
Right. And speaking of career backups, they also signed Tyler, please call me Snoop Huntley now. I don't know where that came from, but I know he's a Snoop Dogg guy. He loves that. Whatever. I'm happy for him. He's actually shown some interesting backup capabilities because he is a little bit, he's so athletic, but a new guy doesn't know the offense. I don't know where he fits into any of this if he has to play.
Yeah, it remains to be seen what his NFL career or lack of career will be like. I think if I had to guess going in about these two, they'd be very similar, with Huntley maybe slightly ahead of him because of his run ability. So there's hope that he can manage the offense if and when Tua comes back, because we're talking probably 8 to 10 weeks, in my opinion. And I'm not a doctor, but this is serious with Tua.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. And by the way, Geno Smith's looking like a Hall of Famer compared to the guys we're talking to right now, right?
Yeah, and he may not get a test yet, but his experience and his journey in the NFL was interesting too. Talking about getting drafted by the wrong team,
Right.
There he was with that
Totally.
organization and the past GM where they stocked the roster with misfits, left, right, and center. And
Yep.
Geno survived all that, and I give him a hell of a lot of credit for that.
Okay, so your thoughts on the spread in this game, in the Miami-Seattle game?
I think it's exactly fair because I agree with the quarterback situation. But, sharp people out there have understood that they knocked this game down, I think, Cris, a little bit. It was sitting around 5. It's sitting around 4.5 now, if I read what I read beforehand. Instead of moving it up because there's a backup quarterback, they're moving it a little bit down. I was kind of hoping it would hit 6 because I think I didn't have those same kinds of trends and tendencies and situations in the Giant game that Cris was mentioning. But I do have a couple of very live situations in Miami, which would have worked at +6.
Well, my number's right on the number, so thankfully I don't have to play that game.
Yeah, fascinating. And Miami can't afford to lose too many games right now because we don't know. We think the Jets are going to win more than they lose, and Buffalo's in a good situation right now, and they already beat Miami at Miami. So Miami's season, whether you think week 3 is important or not, Miami's could have some negative vibes. And I don't, Ted, you may know this from the past, but some wide receivers can be divas.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
Terrell
breaking
Owens, Stephon Diggs. Maybe
we don't have enough several hours to mention everyone.
Maybe a Tyreek Hill. If things go south, you may start seeing some locker room stuff, and that's a problem.
Yeah, although in this case, I think because of Tua's tough situation, it would be a little bit different. It's not like, hey, they're not throwing me the ball. They don't have anybody to throw you the ball. So, but I totally get what you're saying. I got a couple of games I want to talk about, and it's the Texans at the Vikings. The Sam Darnold era is underway. We got a couple of 2-0 teams here, guys. Is this a Super Bowl preview or what?
Go for it, Cris. Give us your take.
I think it's a very interesting matchup.
I do too. I like what the Vikings are doing.
I don't think I'm a believer in the Vikings. I mean, I kind of knew that they had that good defensive potential. I think we should have picked up that they were going to have the ability to have a nice run pass on the offense, as long as Darnold just didn't make mistakes, and that's what we're seeing. We're going to have to see who stays healthy along the way, though. But if Jefferson goes down again, you're going to have to start to worry about that guy because he played for so long without any injuries. Then he got hurt last year. He got dinged up a little bit already. Yeah. Once you start hitting those little injury reports, you seem to hit them more often.
Yeah, let's hope he's okay because Sam Darnold needs him badly. Look, it's all about turnovers with Sam. He plays a clean game. It's a good game. If he doesn't, he looks like the worst quarterback who ever lived. So you never know what you're going to get with him. But I think he's in a really good spot with this team. I think they're putting him in the right situations to be smart and to not turn it over. And now it's up to him.
Yeah, well, I think what happens in this league is, if you're not a hit at first, you go for full cycle, and you just absorb, you get the experience. And when you've got nothing to lose and there's no pressure on you, you can blossom as an NFL quarterback for a team.
Yeah. And Coach
I could
D'Amico
go
Ryans.
both ways.
What's that?
I could go both ways on Darnold. He has a coach that will get the most out of him, but I don't think he has league average accuracy right now. It's not proven to me. And if you look at the first two teams he faced, not tough spots for him. So I still think the jury is out. I think people will overvalue him against certain teams. And so if you see some tight pass defenses, I wouldn't be worried about fading Sam Darnold on those instances. And I also think even though Brian Flores, this is year 2, he's more compassionate. There was a lot of that offseason stuff. I think there's more bonding. I think that's all a plus. And they have 11 sacks or something like that. So they're obviously still blitzkrieg number 1. I mean, they don't even disguise this stuff. But this is a test against C.J. Stroud and a very good group of wide receivers in Houston and underrated Nico Collins and so on.
Right.
If Flores is just going to say, we're going to blitz you, if it doesn't get home against C.J. Stroud, it's going to cause a major problem.
Right. So is the line a good line in your mind?
It's weird. By power ratings, I think Houston is slightly overvalued.
That's what I was going to get.
But by eye test, I think Houston is a better team. So it's internal conflict for me. What I don't want to happen is that Houston becomes -3 because it kind of forces me to play mini. And I would really prefer to pass this game.
You would really prefer to get 3. That's what you would.
Well, I really don't want to play mini, but I get power rating dogs are so successful that it seems silly not to play it.
Right. And I praised this guy all last year, but one more thing on Houston. Coach Ryans has just been spectacular. He really has. And the guy's the real deal. And when he left San Francisco, I said, you never know if a guy's going to be a head coach. But boy, oh boy, are they going to rally to play for him. And have they big time?
It kind of goes against. Go ahead.
Along your line of thought, Ron, Houston's number 2 in the league in sacks. So there should be.
Good stat.
I think it's a fascinating game. It is a good game. And Ted, you had this conversation. Why aren't we hiring more offensive coaches? But the league is very cyclical. It goes back and forth. And so you got a lot of linebackers as coaches right now. And in Pierce and Mayo and D'Amico Ryans and so on and so forth, because they want to stop these high-powered offenses right now. Some of them work, some of them don't.
Yep, absolutely. But you still got to have the quarterback. And I feel for Antonio Pierce. I mean, come on, that's not the way to start your true career as a head coach. You got big trouble. Okay, one more game I want to talk about. The Chargers at the Steelers. Good and not great news, but good news is Justin Herbert's practicing today for the Chargers. He was a heavily taped up ankle, but you got to figure he's going to go on Sunday and he'll be okay. If not, you got your buddy Taylor Heineke waiting to get an opportunity to play for Coach Harbaugh. But against that Steelers defense, which right now is number 1 on the planet, right? Your thoughts?
Chris.
I didn't expect. I think everybody expects Herbert to play. We haven't seen any line movement today.
No, you're not going to see it. I mean, he practiced today, so.
Yeah, I was surprised I was listening to some outlet that was kind of trying to blow it out of proportion that he might not play. Where did that come from? I'm either missing the boat or they are, but.
No, he'll play if he can walk, I think. Again, it's going to be a protection game anyway. You got J.K. Dobbins, who's leading the league in rushing, and as long as he can stay healthy for another 10 more minutes, you're going to just keep feeding him the ball.
This is a great statement by Dan. Give me something about the Chargers Steelers that doesn't describe both teams.
Yeah. Well, the biggest difference, I think, would be if completely healthy, Herbert is far more accurate than Justin Fields.
Oh, of course.
And I think, that's a key point in this game is if Justin Fields is forced to throw, he's going to hit 50%. Now, he could hit a splash play because he's elusive. But then again, if Pickens is covered by the Chargers' best cornerback / safety combo, there's not one other player on Pittsburgh's offensive unit that scares a team.
Right.
Basically, Pittsburgh's doing it with Watt, a lot of defense, timely coaching, a few field goals, and so on and so forth. And that might, to Dan's point, that describes the Chargers right now too, who also, remember, 2-game sample size, and the Chargers haven't played the best of opponents yet.
Exactly.
So we're still in learning mode as to if one of these teams is really a legit 2-0 team or whatever. I don't expect Pittsburgh to win their division, but they're making a case for the playoffs. And I don't expect the Chargers to win the division, but they're making a very good case for the playoffs as well. So the winner of this game is 3-0, and that could be a tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's
at
true.
the end of the year. So
you got 2 top defensive teams in the league, though, right now. And my big question for you, Ron, is the rush D as opposed to the pass D for Pittsburgh against the Chargers. Because if the rush D comes through, I don't know where the Chargers are going to be able to get off in this game.
I rate I know there have been years that Pittsburgh's rush D has been top 5, but I rate them as slightly better than average this year. Only 2 games, but that's what I rated them coming in, and I haven't changed that.
Okay.
The Chargers, who have failed miserably under Staley in terms of defending the run, I expect a lot more out of them because they're going to actually tackle people under Harbaugh. So, and they drafted to that extent as well. If you think there's a low correlation between draft and success, which I've emphasized over the years, but I think it's actually becoming even a higher correlation. These are 2 of the top 5 teams in my draft from this past year. And both of them are showing it right now at 2-0 because they're both fundamentally sound right now. So it's another fascinating game. Personally, for me,
playable?
Not playable for me because I don't know. I could see 16-13 one way or another.
Exactly. What do you think, Chris?
I'm waiting for it to get up to 2.5 so I can tease the Chargers.
Wasn't it 2? Didn't it open at 2?
Yeah, I've seen some 2s. I just didn't have my act together at the time, and I don't really see any 2s now.
Is 35.5 about as low a total we've seen this year? I have not paid that close attention to it.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, it makes a lot of sense in this game. That's for damn sure.
Some people who like the field goal props, they could just say, hey, bet the over in field goals for the game or something.
Right. Well,
there's no 2s anywhere yet. So
I'm going to like I told you, I'm going to the Rams 49ers game. If the Niners lose to this Rams team on Sunday, do we blame it all on Brandon Staley showing up there as an assistant?
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris and I had this conversation. It's hard to know how to start to handicap this game. But when I try to figure it out, I actually downgraded San Francisco 3 points for injuries, which is a hell of a lot of, that's hard to do at a non-quarterback position.
Yeah, well, you got
downgrade them 3 points.
2 of the top playmakers in the league out. Right?
Actually, I shouldn't say San Francisco. The Rams, I downgraded 3 points.
Well, I was going to say San Francisco.
San Francisco, just 1 point.
But without McCaffrey and Debo, that's a lot there.
Yeah, but they were already downgraded a point.
Well, that's true. But I'm saying overall, though, that's that would be the difference. Even
with a bigger downgrade, to me, my odds point to San Francisco being favored by 6. And we saw 7.5 a lot, and now mostly 7, I believe. So I think there's value on the Rams. A very weird game to handicap because the Rams haven't run the ball well, which is, they like to run their running backs 20 times a game. Their preference in this game would be Williams running the ball 24 for 100.
Yep.
Well, if they run the ball, it's going to be like a passing game because they're only running for 2 yards a carry, so the plays will be that much faster, and there'll be that many plays going on. So the over looks good.
That's a unique way of looking at it. Yeah.
So is there a prop play anywhere? The first rookie starting quarterback to throw a touchdown pass?
So, there's a real good chance Chicago's rookie throws a TD against Indy.
Yeah, that's
There's
true. That's
probably a good chance of blown coverage with Tampa. Nothing, not to take away against Tampa, but they have a lot of injuries on defense, an awful lot. So I would think both Chicago and Denver, they have a chance to.
Yeah, but then you really have to go deeper into that and decide and evaluate what's the likelihood of each team receiving the ball, deferring the toss.
Yeah,
because then that's going to give an edge to one or the other.
Yeah, if it's yes, no, will a rookie quarterback throw a touchdown? Yeah, or maybe they could have how many touchdowns will rookie quarterbacks throw this week? Over under 1.5.
Okay, interesting. Well, the good news is that we don't have to worry about somebody throwing the ball to Saquon Barkley this weekend when the game's on the line. Did that cost any of you guys anything?
No, that was a home run game. I think
that was a good one. That was a good one for you.
No, I mean, that was stay away because the line needed to be 3 for me to take the Giants. So that was exactly what we talked about last week. That line was fishy to begin with, and the Giants did everything but win the game. They scored 7 times, or Washington scored 7 times and won by 3.
I had forgotten how many times Saquon has dropped passes. Do you remember him in college? Was he better in college, or that was an issue? He wasn't much of a two-way guy there.
I think Penn State's offense was such that passing to the running backs wasn't a big thing.
Okay.
But again, just a closing point on this particular game, that wasn't the right play.
No,
I know a couple of people
we
disagree.
know that, but whether it was the right play or the wrong play, he's got to catch that ball.
Yeah, he could have stopped and caught the ball and maybe get the first down, given up a couple of yards that way. But he was trying to run for the first down.
Exactly.
It's a natural human instinct to do what he did.
Yeah, it's too bad. Any other thoughts on the weekend, boys?
Yeah, I'm going to go to sleep. I've been up all night. So
that's an interesting thought. And I'm gonna be in St. Louis for the weekend. So seeing whether or not the Rams are going to be there, and I think the Rams are still not in St. Louis. Good sports town, but they don't have a football team. But I'll look around, see if there's any.
No, they did everything they could to blow it to have a football team. So they don't deserve a football team. The Cardinals left for a reason, just awful ownership, and the Rams left for a bunch of reasons.
Correct me on this, because this is a blast for a pass. Jim Bakken was the St. Louis Cardinal kicker.
That is correct.
I love that guy. I think he was a straight ahead kicker, and he.
How do you spell his name? Do you remember how to spell his name?
Double K.
There you go. Very good.
Yeah.
The main thing is don't have 3 Ks. That would look really, really bad.
Yeah,
right,
that would
Cris?
be special, as they say. But I really liked him. Jim Hart, that team. But that's for another day, guys.
Great players.
Good luck to everybody. Good luck to everybody this week.
See you guys. Have fun.
Bye-bye.